Okay. All right, let's call this meeting to order and let's do Cynthia, are we supposed to do roll call? Whatever, okay. Okay, Beverly Scott is not on now, okay. And I see Dulce and Princess, Annie, Martha, let's see, yeah, no,
Martha's on vacation, so we're
Okay.
missing Beverly and
okay. All right, so you all got a chance to see the agenda and the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda or minutes unless there's some recommendations or changes or anything to that?
Okay. Well, Chair Gilmore, let's start it off because we got a national night out tonight. So let's get it moving. So I would like to attain a motion to accept our agenda for tonight, Tuesday, August 2nd. And to add in that motion, the minutes to be accepted also for last month's agenda, minutes to also be accepted.
All right, is there a second?
Second the motion.
All right, there is a second. And by those, all in favor, I know you by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstentions? Okay, we'll move on to the next is it's a public comment, 3 minutes for each person.
That's
And
me.
Is that Cordell?
That's me, Chair Gilmore.
Go right ahead.
So good evening, Chair Gilmore, board members. My name is Cordell Hendler and I'm a Richmond resident. So as Miss Annie said, it's National Night Out, so everyone is invited to all the block parties in Richmond. So that's one. And then also coming up next Friday on August the 12th, at the Richmond Rotary Club is having their weekly meeting at 12:30 at the Richmond Country Club, and it's $25, and that includes lunch too. So you're invited. So our speaker for that meeting will be LaShonda White, who will be talking to us about how the city should spend the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So this is your opportunity, to provide input how the money should be allocated. And let's see. And you'll be also happy to know that I will try to come in person at the next month's MAC meeting. I will try. So depending on other things. So that's all I have to say. And hopefully everyone comes to the block party after the call. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any other public? Oh, Cynthia, go ahead. I see you.
For participating in the North Richmond 11th Annual Music Festival. After being shut down during COVID, the festival was a great success. And the seniors, this festival is something that the seniors in North Richmond look forward to. So they really had a good time serving their cakes, and it was a good event.
Thank you, Cynthia. Is there any other public comment? Any hands up that I'm missing, Tanya? Okay, if not, we're gonna move on to law enforcement. Is anyone from the sheriff department here?
Hi, how you guys doing? Lieutenant Rodriguez. I'll start off with the reports for the night. So for the month of July, as far as the calls for service that we had 353 calls for service. Of those calls for service, we generated 24 reports, and the select crime trends for the 3-month period was 15 reports in the month of May, 9 in the month of June, and we had 8 for the month of July. One of the things we're seeing as recent as today, about 2 hours ago, thankfully it was interrupted, and we were able to identify some suspects, and deputies are actively working on it right now, is catalytic converter thefts. What we're seeing with the catalytic converter thefts, though, we had one in June, late June, and El Sobrante was interrupted. The homeowner saw two suspects attempting to steal the catalytic converter about 9:30 in the morning, chased them down the driveway. And as they got to the bottom of the driveway, one of the suspects drew a firearm and fired a shot at him. Thankfully, the homeowner wasn't hit, but scary enough. Last week in Rodeo, we had a similar instance. This one was at nighttime and was a single suspect, but same circumstances. Resident chased them, and during the chase, the suspect fired round. In that one, the person was actually struck by the round. They're okay, but nonetheless. So I caution you, please, as community members, please report these incidents. Don't chase the suspects. I understand it's a violation, and someone's stealing your property and all that, but we don't want it to turn into a crime against a person and have anybody get hurt. So please report them. In this case, it was reported. A neighbor called in and said, "Hey, it looks like they're stealing the catalytic converter," and we were able to get good identification. We know the people involved, and we're following up to make an arrest right now. So please report it. Be a good witness. That'll help us, and it'll help keep everyone safe. Other things that happened today, and we met with Supervisor Joy's office in Public Works yesterday in regards to the street sweeping and some of the parking taking place. So Deputy Webb was currently out there, and CSO Spiegel were out there today. I believe they tagged a total of 22 vehicles, and they spoke with several residents, advising them. So we'll continue to do that on the posted days for Tuesdays and Fridays. And hopefully folks will start to heed the warning and park accordingly, so that we can make sure the streets are being cleaned appropriately. So apologize in the delay for getting that done, but we are on it, and we'll continue to do so and stay on top of us if we stray away from it. All right, so that's all I have. If anybody has anything for me.
I thought I saw a question from, was it Cole?
And I do.
And all right, so let's go with Cynthia, and then we'll go with Annie. I don't know if Cole still had a question.
Okay, I just want to comment on the street sweeping. And, I don't live in North Richmond, but I come down to church every Sunday, and I come down to different projects and programs. And I have a few friends still live in North Richmond, and I go to their house. But what I'm getting to is that you can't even cross through an intersection safely. There's cars parked, like hugging the corners and stuff like that. And you cannot see past those intersections in order to drive through the intersection safely. And I just want to say that, because it's like you creeping around North Richmond in your car. You get to an intersection, you got to sit there for a minute. You kind of figure your way through the intersection. And I think, I'm pretty sure a lot of those cars are not registered, up to date registration. And they really need to go, really need to get up out of North Richmond. One house has 10 cars on an average, and it just don't make sense.
Yes, ma'am. So as you mentioned that, I spoke with the Supervisor Jory's office yesterday. One of our deputies has advised me there's a house that they're currently working on with code enforcement. I believe that the house is on 5th Street. And as you mentioned, over 10 cars just with that one residence. Cars have been towed from there, tagged from there previously, issued citations, and we're working to get those cars out of there, because I agree with you. It is a hazard when they start creeping on the intersections, and then also with the safe passage routes being on Garamita. The other problem we don't want to see is pedestrians being struck because vehicles can't see them entering the roadway. So I agree. We'll keep on it. And if you guys see any, please let me know if there's areas that you would like more directed enforcement with the parking issues, and we'll make that happen.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go with Annie, then we'll go with Dulce. I see you both. Go ahead, Annie.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Chairman Gilmore, and to our sheriff, Officer
Rodriguez.
I just a couple of things. I know that you're speaking on the county side, but also we have issues with on the city side also of not having cars being removed. I have a car, and I'm putting myself out there. I have a car sitting right in front of my door, be on the city side, and I've reported the address, and it's on Willard, and it's a Mercedes, and it's been there for 4 months, unmoved. So I don't know if it's stolen or what. And I've actually called into the city, and the city has a recorder saying that, they only have one code enforcer for the whole city of Richmond, and that to be patient. I don't know how long you can be patient after 4 months and a car still sitting there in front of your door.
So Annie,
So-
what we want to do is, I know that the sheriff's department handles the county portion. So
You kinda talk
Tanya has the person to contact for the city. So we
Right.
just said we have to get that person to respond. So we'll do some reach
After
out,
4 months,
outreach.
okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Okay, Dulce, go ahead. Then Cole after that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, since Officer Rodriguez, you brought up the catalytic converter thing. I saw that where was it? Pinole Police Department had an event for their residents on catalytic converter etching and giving a sticker for anti-theft. I don't know if you had more details on that, or if there's a possibility for unincorporated North Richmond to do something similar to that, since it seems like every MAC meeting that I've gone to month after month, it seems like that's the hot issue right now, especially here.
Yeah, it's a really prevalent crime in large part due to just how quickly they can steal the catalytic converter. And one of the problems is being able to identify it. That's something I'm not familiar with with Pinole's event specifically, but I can reach out to Lieutenant Cron over there and get some information as to who they partnered with to get that done. A lot of times that's on behalf of some of these businesses. Either doing it as a charity event or at some lowered cost and partnering with the agency, because it is a labor and a service that they're providing. So I can get the information on that and see if that's something we can set up on the Indiana incorporated areas as well.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
yeah, thank you and you won't be doing it alone. I'm interested in supporting and hosting with that, as long as we get the contact information to make it happen.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, Cole.
Yeah, thank you. Officer Rodriguez, I just earlier today you were talking about a number of reports. I just want to know whether that's like a higher number of reports, a normal number of reports, or a lower number of reports. And then secondarily, a bit of a question on the catalytic converter theft thing. What are you guys doing to sort of combat this? Because it is a big thing that a lot of friends, with me, myself, having catalytic converters stolen from my cars. What is something that you guys are doing to sort of combat this?
Yeah, so some of these is as far as the catalytic converter thefts go, is that it's not random in terms of the suspects that are committing these crimes. What we're finding is it tends to be either crime rings or the same groups that are going out and have found that, hey, I know a place where I can go and get this recycled and get the money for it. Some of the things that we've been able to identify is our investigations has actually been able to solve a few cases, and one in particular, they were staying out of a motel on the West End, and several of the suspects were on probation, and they were able to link them to several crimes in multiple jurisdictions to go include all the way up to Sonoma. As far as the prevention goes, a lot of that comes down to the individual property owners, and so some of it unfortunately is by way of what vehicle you choose to drive. So and that's due to the components that are used to manufacture the catalytic converter. So I can tell you vehicles that are being targeted primarily are your Toyotas, specifically Toyota 4Runners, Tacomas, Toyota Priuses, and then also Hondas. So we're seeing a lot of Honda Civics, Honda Accords, and it's due in large part due to the materials that are used in the construction of the catalytic converter. So it's the metals actually inside the device itself that they're taking and selling, and not always to a recycler. Sometimes on the internet, we're seeing that as well. So some of the things are as mentioned, having etching, or just making it harder for making your vehicle a harder target. So parking in well-lit areas, whether that's street lights, motion sensors, parking in a garage if you have the means to do so, behind a gate on your driveway. Others would be, you can have, it's almost like a cage or other instruments welded on over the catalytic converter. If they really want to get it, they're going to bypass, they'll still be able to bypass and saw right through that. The difference is it's going to take them more time in order to complete that. So.
Okay. Thank you, Officer Rodriguez. We're gonna move on to the Richmond Police Department. And I think we have somebody present from there.
Yeah, hi, Sergeant Malgoza, Richmond Police Department. Currently, we had 1,698 calls last month. Our homicides are down 100% from the previous year. Our aggravated assaults overall are up 67% from this month, from July of last year. Robberies are up 33%. However, robberies with firearm are down 200%. Residential burglaries and thefts in general are down 100% from July of last year. And our impounds, collisions, and warrant arrests are down 57% from last year. Is there any questions?
Well, let me, before we
Sorry.
do that, I wanted to, now those stats, are there for, what is that for North Richmond area or what?
Five.
It's the Central District in general. These were the stats provided me by the lieutenant. He asked for me to fill in because he's actually currently at National Night Out.
So just for the record, can you tell us what that district, and where's the boundaries for it?
Five.
Yeah.
So well, it's the entire Central District. So it would go from Ohio and South 23rd Street all the way to basically North Richmond.
To where?
North Richmond. It'd be the entire Iron Triangle, North Richmond, and sort of.
So it's a larger area. I don't know, is there any way to break it down? I mean, we have gotten that before in the past. I don't know how they did it. We tend to go in and out of having it and not having it. I just don't know if there's, a different computer system or what.
Crime stat analyst, but I don't know if she's currently here or had the opportunity to do it. I believe she might be on vacation.
Okay, I'm opening up for questions now. I know Cordell had his hand up for a while.
Yeah, and I have.
And then Annie, we'll go back to you, then Cynthia.
Okay.
Okay, so Sergeant Melgoza, one of the concerns that was mentioned is about the fireworks, because especially like in North and East, I have called the police twice because they were like shooting up like gang fuzzers all over North and East, and it's like it's going to be a habit. That's one. And then the other concern was regarding the I get a lot of feedback from the business community because people be speeding along 23rd Street. So the question is, will there be more officers that will be like, making sure that like a traffic division, because 23rd Street is a roadhouse. That's it.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure most of you are aware of our staffing issues. Currently, our traffic enforcement unit is down to 3 officers. Over the last 2 weeks, they have done a lot of enforcement along 23rd Street and McDonald Avenue. they've been in here on a lot of overtime, bringing in a lot of other officers to focus on the distracted driver, individuals crossing the street at crosswalks, speeding, and just overall primary collision factories, trying to avoid a lot of those things. So, and with regards to the fireworks, I'm just going to be honest with you, the fireworks have become a low priority based on the fact that, again, our staffing issues, we don't have the officers to focus on that based on the number of calls, as well as the fact that when we have arrested individuals, the city attorney has chosen not to file charges or do anything with those arrests or those reports taken.
Annie, you're up.
Okay. Officer Mendoza, I'm sorry for not addressing you. I didn't know you were on the call. So
That's okay.
Yeah, the question I had to our sheriff is to you about the car that has been sitting in front of my residence for over 4 months. And again, as I say, I have called in, and the message is to be patient, and I've been very patient. And when the street sweeper comes, he just goes around this, and then I have to get out and sweep the curb. So anyway, I was just wondering, will we ever have a consistent, I know you were just saying we're down, and from the message itself, it says we only have one that actually takes care of abandoned cars at this point. So I'm just wondering, is there any other task or any other officer that may be able to come out? Because it's a Mercedes, I don't know, it's been stolen, it's been sitting there for 4 months. So anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, we only have one parking enforcement officer. We actually just hired a second. Yesterday was her first day. So it will be a month, maybe even longer, till she's fully trained up and able to get out there and start addressing some of these complaints. So the wait, I mean, 4 months, honestly, that's a short period of time, sad to say. But if you can if you send me an email or send Lieutenant Lucas an email, we can see if we can get one of our beat officers over there to handle that right away for you. But yeah, we can't hire anybody. So we just don't have the officers or the civilian staff to answer a lot of these calls that are requested.
Okay, well, whenever they get to my list, and they'll see that I put down all the information that was needed, the card.
Send the email, Annie.
Yeah, if you send Lieutenant Lucas an email and say that you spoke with me, I'll try and get the beat officer out there right away to handle it.
It's listed, 2 or 3 times. So, okay, thank you.
No problem.
Cynthia, go ahead. Cynthia, on mute.
I'm muted now. I just wanted to say, if I'm not mistaken, the district that the sergeant reported on is called Beat 5, which covers quite a bit of area.
No, Beat 5 is considered North Richmond. The central
Exactly.
district. Yeah, the central district is the entire Beat 4, Beat 5, and Beat 6.
Okay. All right, any other questions? If not, thank you so much for your report. And we will move to Highway Patrol if anyone's present from the Highway Patrol.
From the Highway Patrol, and I did request their quarterly report that they said they would send to us, so I'll follow up on that again for our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move down to item number 6. And that will be presentation from DTSC.
Hi, how's it going? My name is Parag Shah. I'm the DTSC project manager. I will actually quickly just go ahead and transfer it over to Tracy Craig, and she'll introduce, and then it'll come right back to me. So go ahead, Tracy.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tracy Craig, and I'm working with Parag on this project. Typically, Asha Sethi would be kicking this off, but Asha and a lot of other DTSC staff are on vacation, so I am backfilling for her. Just wanted to put this in perspective. So first of all, thank you for having us. Parag is here tonight from DTSC. He's the only one from DTSC here due to vacation schedules, so not sure if we'll be able to answer all your questions, but if we don't, we will take them down and get back to you, back to the whole group with any answers that we aren't able to answer tonight. We also have some representatives from Centerpoint here tonight as well. I won't go into introducing all of those, just wanted to let you know, important project to them, and they're here too. So we're here tonight to talk about 506 to 580 Brookside Drive. It's a former plant nursery, and due to the historic uses of the site got contaminated. DTSC, Department of Toxic Substances Control, is a state agency that oversees cleanup of sites that have been contaminated. The current owner is Centerpoint Properties. They will be constructing 3 warehouses on the project site. The project has actually been approved by the county, and the environmental impact report has been finalized. DTSC will be overseeing the cleanup to support the redevelopment of this property in alignment with with the intended land use, which is commercial and industrial. DTSC did have a public comment period on the cleanup plan. It's also called the removal action work plan that ran from June 13th to July 13th. They sent out a fact sheet. We got a comment from a member of the public asking us to present at the MAC and also to extend the public comment period. That public comment period has been extended to August 3rd. We know that's tomorrow, so I just want to reassure folks, if they get comments in sometime this week or early next week, those will still, of course, be considered, because it's very important that we get comments from the public. All comments will be considered before DTSC decides to approve or modify or deny the cleanup plan. And Parag will go into how to comment. After this, I'll also have our colleague on the line, John Permani, put in DTSC's address and Parag's email and all that pertinent information. So just want to stress again, not a lot of staff is here tonight, but we are here to help to give you as much information as we can. Most questions will be asked in the presentation, so I would ask, if you have a clarifying question, go ahead and raise your hand and Parag will call on you. Otherwise, we will have all the questions at the end, and we're willing to stay as long as you like. Our presentation is about 10 minutes, followed by questions and answers. And again, if we can't answer a comment tonight, we will answer it in response to comment. That document is sent out to all commenters, and we'll also send it to the North Richmond MAC board members, because we know they oversee projects in the area. So I think with that, I will turn this back over to Parag, and thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you, Tracy. Yeah, thank you for having us. I'm here to speak about the DTSC project Brookside Drive. And we will, the address is 506 to 580 Brookside Drive, Richmond, California. And we're discussing the draft removal action work plan, which is also called RAW. We actually, have a lot of acronyms, but we're going to do our best to break that down. My name is Parag Shah. I'm the project manager for this site. And hold on 1 second. Sorry to do this, but I got like some background noise. Sorry about that. Okay, so we got the site location here, and as you can see, the Centerpoint property plans to construct 3 buildings, and we got 4 warehouses, and the county approved it in a environmental impact report. It's also called an EIR in May of this year. I'll go through the site history now for this site. From the 1930s to 2009, it was mainly an agricultural site. So by that, I mean, it was a nursery that had packaging business operations, orchards, row crops, livestock. And then in 2018, Centerpoint Properties purchases the property. And since then, they've been doing environmental investigations on the contamination, and they've also developed a cleanup plan to support the future warehouse use. This slide will go over the site investigations that's been conducted since 2017. The chemicals here, I know they may sound unfamiliar, but they're pretty much consistent with agricultural use. For the soil, there's mainly lead, arsenic, chromium, total petroleum hydrocarbons, dieldrin, In the groundwater, it's also dieldrin, arsenic, total petroleum hydrocarbons, and 1,2,3 trichloropropane, which is an agricultural soil fumigant. And now I'll just go over the 3 alternatives that was considered for this cleanup. Alternative 1 is basically taking no action. Alternative 2 is an excavation and then a combination of consolidation and offsite disposal. In this alternative, that would require also an annual monitoring of the building, which is serving as a cap over that soil where the consolidation is, and then also ongoing monitoring, groundwater monitoring, and then land use controls to prevent to restrict it to commercial industrial use and prevent use of groundwater. Alternative 3 would be excavation and offsite disposal of all the contaminated soil. Moving on, we got go over the proposed remedy, which is alternative 2. And what they'll do is excavate 2,500 cubic yards, which is roughly 230 truckloads of the higher concentrated contaminated soil from the certain targeted locations. And then that will be disposed at a permitted landfill facility. And then they'll excavate and consolidate about 12,000 cubic yards of lower contaminated soil, and that'll be consolidated underneath the building 2. This building 2 would act as a cap or cover over that soil. Though that soil that is being covered under building 2 is suitable for industrial use. This alternative does minimize the temporary exposure of contaminants, and then this also protects groundwater quality because the building will serve as a cap and will pretty much like serve as it'll prevent rainwater leaching the contaminants to get into the groundwater. And now I'll cover the operation and maintenance, which pretty much follows this cleanup. There'll be, of course, annual monitoring and maintenance of the cap. There'll be long-term groundwater monitoring to make sure the concentrations are actually declining over time. We will require the RP to have a contingency measure in chance that the groundwater does not actually decline naturally. There will be a land use covenant recorded to restrict the property being used for residences, hospitals, daycares, schools, as well as prohibit the use of shallow groundwater. And then every 5 years, DTSC will review the remedy to ensure protection. And now here might be a little difficult to see, but it's pretty much a more detailed map of the proposed excavation consolidation. Basically, yellow shows where they plan to excavate 2 feet. Purple shows where they plan to excavate 1 foot. And then blue shows where they plan to consolidate, where the consolidated soil will be placed. Moving on. Now we'll discuss like the community protection measures that's being taken place. The work will be done in accordance with the health and safety plan, the traffic management plan, stormwater pollution prevention plan, and the community air monitoring plan, which is also called the CAMP. There'll be, of course, work areas fenced off with signage. Water, foam, or plastic sheeting will be used to control dust. If, for instance, if they see a cloud of dust, they'll obviously water it down to prevent that cloud from flowing everywhere. Truckloads will be covered, and then their tires will be cleaned, as you see in that picture, and then and trucks will be inspected prior to leaving the site. And then there will be flaggers to on site to manage vehicle and pedestrian traffic. The commuter air monitoring plan, also CAMP, there'll be real-time monitoring dust during this soil disturbing work, and perimeter air monitoring stations, 2 downwind of the location, 1 upwind of the location. This is pretty much to, we realize there's residences and a school nearby, so we want to be cognizant of the fact that, we don't want any dust breaching the perimeter. So they've put these measures in place. There'll be health protective thresholds in place to allow for adjusting methods to control dust. The work will stop if dust exceeds thresholds. There will be on-site weather station and wind monitoring. And if the wind speeds hit over 20 miles per hour, there will be work stop. Now discuss the truck traffic. The transport's about to take approximately 5 days. There's an average of 60 truck trips that will occur daily. Trucks follow a county-approved route that limits traffic through local neighborhoods. And I'll discuss that in the next slide. There will be, again, there will be flaggers that manage the vehicle and pedestrian traffic, and truck idling times will be minimized. So here's the truck route. I don't know if you'll be able to see my mouse, but just follow it along. Pretty much any trucks would exit the site and head west on Brookside Drive this way. They'll then turn a left on Central Street and then right onto Pittsburgh Avenue, and then go north on I-80 or south on 580, depending on where they're going. So this route was, taken in account, like try to way to avoid any residential neighborhoods. Now I'll discuss CEQA, which is the California Environmental Quality Act. Basically, in May of 2022, County of Contra Costa approved this project, which also included certifying a final environmental impact report. If you want to look it up, feel free to look it up on the CEQAnet. The state clearinghouse number is 2019110003. Again, that's 2019110003. The EIR incorporated these DTSC raw activities into the environmental analysis. DTSC reviewed the final EIR and determined the proposed remediation would not have a significant impact on environment with the safeguards and mitigation measures in place. DTSC has also prepared a statement of finding and notice of determination, which is pretty much a summary of that EIR, and that will be filed in the state clearinghouse upon approval of the RAW. So now let's talk about next steps. DTSC will evaluate any public comments and consider making changes to the draft RAW. DTSC will prepare a response to comments document. DTSC approves the final RAW and files statement findings and notice determination that I spoke to earlier. If approved, the remediation would begin later this year. And then DTSC would, of course, distribute a work notice 1 week prior to the start of remediation work. As you can see, this, like what Tracy said earlier, the public comment period has been extended. It's now, the last day is actually tomorrow, so please try to send comments in to me. My information is listed over here. All comments will be addressed in a response to comments document after the close of the comments period. And here's more information. Feel free to check out the Brookside site if you want to look up documents on the EnviroStore site. In addition to me, there's also our DTSC public participation specialist, Asha Sethi. You can feel free to contact her as well. And that's it. And now I'll go ahead and take questions. hold on, let me switch over.
I think what I'm going to do, maybe it's easiest if I just call you in the order of hands going up. Would that work for you
Okay.
folks? So Cynthia, Letitia, Annie is what I see right now. Let's do that order and then we'll see what other questions we get. How's that sound?
Okay,
Sounds good.
so
Perfect.
this is Cynthia. I'll start off. So what I'd like to say is that seem like when you guys start doing the report on the soil on that property, it's like you open up a can of worms because there's a lot of contamination. And this is for the audience info, that where the Parkway Estates were built off of Gertrude, that was also what we call flower nursery. So I got a funny feeling that the Parkway Estates must have went through the same process. It had to be contaminated from using chemicals and things over the years. And you say if it comes to the point where the building, you might have to cap the land and put the building on top of the cap, and like the commercial on TV said, concrete cracks, okay? And groundwater does seep under concrete. And I also would like to mention the fact that Urban Tilt is next to this property. And if this soil is coming up with this much contaminants, I can just imagine what Urban Tilt soil is like, consists of, and they're growing fruits and vegetables on their soil. So anything you build in North Richmond that was mostly in the area where there was mostly flower nurseries and farmlands, it's the ground is something else, something to be considered. And that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good comment. Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah, and then I think, please remember the order. I think I said Annie and then Letitia, was it Letitia and then Annie? And I'm only going by your names on the.
It was Letitia and then me.
Thank you. And then I'm going to say after that, I have Latifa and, oh, this thing keeps moving around, and Dante. And then Sarah, and then Dulce. John, I hope you're writing this list down for us.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you. When I checked that paper that I got by the mail, I was really concerned about the cleaning. I have a question, and I think I know the answer, but why wasn't number 3 chose? That's one of my questions. But my big concern is the cleanup of that place. I mean, there is a school pretty close by. My house is, I will say, maybe like 4 blocks from there. I know that you're gonna have these machines for the dust, but you know, those machines are gonna tell you that the dust is in the air. But by then, we are gonna be already affected by the air because we are here, we're breathing that. The kids are breathing that, we are all breathing that. I will say another thing when I don't know how I didn't hear about this or the comments for the site that they built, but the experience that I had with the site that was built by the big warehouse. I mean, I noticed because I drive by that road like every day. It was a lot of dust going on. I know there was pipes with water getting the dirt wet, but still there was a lot of dust going on. So I'm really concerned about the contamination and how we're going to be affected by it. I know that because I learned on another project about, like Cynthia said, when there is earthquakes, the ground, the dirt moves. So I don't know how that is going to be safe. The price of like checking them like every year or keeping an eye on it. I mean, I don't know how it's accurate it's going to be and if it's going to be done on time. So those are the things that really I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about my health and how my kids and the kids at school and all the neighborhood people that lives here could be affected by the project. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for all of those are good questions and comments. I'll go ahead and answer that first one you had. I put it on the screen what she was referring to. She was asking why wasn't alternative 3 considered, and or why wasn't it selected? And basically DTSC can can only ask the RP to clean up to whatever the intended use is. And so alternative two cleans up to what the intended use is for commercial industrial use. And so alternative two does in fact meet the screening levels for commercial industrial use. So that's why alternative three wasn't selected. Now, your next question was with regards to the dust, which is pretty much in the community air monitoring plan, the camp. Now, DTSC does take dust very seriously. Granted, this is contaminated soil. So yeah, we do not only just for the surrounding community, I mean, which is why we have the perimeter, but also for the workers as well that are working on site. We're also trying to monitor for their health as well. So the camp is the guidance that we did select for the RP is keeping that in mind. Now, I would actually like to turn it over to Chris Heine, who's the consultant to the RP. He helped develop the camp for this site, the community air monitoring plan. So I was figured, Chris, if you wanted to put a little bit more information to answer Letitia's questions about the dust levels and what y'all are doing to keep the surrounding community in mind.
Right. So part of the remedial action plan and the camp is the monitoring the dust during construction. And so what we do is we set up these dust monitors on the upwind and downwind sides to monitor the levels of dust, and also or in real time. So we can, look at these meters and see, okay, well, what is the concentration? And then we compare that to what we call like a trigger concentration, which is well below what the health-based levels are for just breathing dust in. So once we hit that trigger, or if that trigger concentration is hit, then that's when we turn to the contractor and we say, you guys need to stop, you guys need to change what you're doing, increase your dust control measures. And then there's also protocols is if there's certain wind conditions, like if it's over 20 miles per hour, then they just have to stop work. So the dust control plan also, it has a lot of protocols for preventing it, so we don't get to that trigger concentration. But that's the purpose of the monitoring, is to make sure that contractors are preventing that dust from leaving the site.
I would add to, I just would like to say that week-ending reports are typically issued that actually say what the air monitoring was, so that you would actually know. And the trick is keeping the dust on site, which is why we have those air monitors. And if necessary, we're welcome to, we will come back and present in detail on the community air monitoring plan. We'll also include more information in the response to comments on that. Okay, and I'm going to try to be respectful of time. So I think the next person was Annie with that fabulous hair.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you, Tracy. Well, just a couple things, and I will be using your site to put in my other questions.
Good.
But just to clarify, just one comment that was made about looking at our lands here in North Richmond. We knowing of the contaminations, but we have a procedure that we do before we even build. And I'm saying this is one of the, I can see this is the cleanup that you are all doing now, is to look at the contaminants that are in our land, that are in the land that is supposed to be having this warehouse built. So kudos to what you're doing now to look at for the contaminations and to have that monitored and available for the community. The other thing is, I was looking at, and for the proposed remedy that I don't have a page number, but it's talking, it speaks of the excavation for a possibly 2,500 cubic yards, looking at something of 230 truckloads that will be going in and out and making these and taking this contaminated soil into its location. But I was just looking at further into this document. It spoke of the movement of at least 5 days with a turnaround of 6 truckloads backwards and forth. And if you do that calculation, it's not 230 trucks, it's actually 300. So that's something that we should look at also. So we're like 70 trucks of what is documented here. The other thing is that I want to mention about this 5-year, and this will be my last question, and the other questions I'll put in to you all. The other question that's really came out to me was the 5-year of knowing to look at the contaminations to see if it has sunk into the water, if it's doing any seeking. And I was just wondering, why would it just take, the land is contaminated. And I think that knowing being around a residence and being next to a school, that you would want to wait every 5 years to test to see if it's doing any seepage, that you would want to do a little closer than 5 years, So that was the other thing. I was just wondering how you round up to that 5 years instead of, and looking at the conditions around this unit that's going to be built to do every 5 years instead of every 1 year,
Right.
So anyway, that's my question to you. I'm cutting it. The other things I'll write to you because I have several other questions that I need to present to you all and have some clarifications. So I'm done. Thank you.
Parag, I'm going to let you answer that, but I just want to say next would be Latifa, Dante, Sarah, Dulce, and then Johanna. I hope I pronounced that name right. So I just wanted to acknowledge that Johanna has also had her hand up for quite some time. And then please answer Annie's question. And that would be the frequency of monitoring.
Right. Yes. I wanted to clarify your 5-year question, but I'll say we'll come back to the truck question, and I'll turn it over to Chris to answer that truck one after answer your 5-year question. So let me clarify that a little bit more. We are actually testing every year. There will be annual groundwater monitoring, testing, and checking if there's any cracks in the cap or whatever. But there will be annual groundwater monitoring. We're not testing it every 5 years. It'll be every year actually. Usually, the way it works, and this is the US EPA guidance actually, but every 5 years we take a holistic approach, and at that 5-year mark is where we evaluate, okay, we look at the last 5 years because sometimes there's flukes or whatever, right? Depending on, heavy rainfall day or rainfall year or whatever. So you take a look at the last 5 years holistically and see like, okay, how are the trends over the last 5 years? Is it like, is it decreasing as we're expecting to? Is it actually increasing? So, and then that's when we would evaluate, okay, you know what? We're gonna have to do something different because like maybe this is increasing or something, or maybe things are decreasing as normal, in which case, everything continues as normal. So that's the answer to your question on the 5-year. It isn't every 5 years that we're testing, it's every 1 year. Okay. And then 5 years when we evaluate. Now to answer the truck question, I want to transfer it over to Chris.
Yeah, for the trucks, it's really an estimate based off of whatever information we have as far as that goes. It can vary, and there could have been like a contingency built in just to account for a couple extra trucks or whatever. But we can revisit that and make sure that is correct and revise it if needed in the final raw. But again, it's an estimate there.
And Annie, we look forward to your other comments that you submit. And then moving on to Latifa.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Good evening. Well, I wanted to ask Parag, I saw that one of my questions was the same as Letitia. She asked about the alternative 3 and why that wasn't chosen. So, and I know DTSC, my understanding is you are the regulatory body that oversees brownfields. So again, so since you've chosen the second alternative, are you planning to issue a bond? Since you're not removing all the contaminants, are you planning to issue a bond? And then also my last thing, there's a current dirt pile that hasn't always been there. So I'd like to know what that is. Thank you.
I'll have to get back to you on the current dirt pile. I'm not aware of what you're referring to. As far as I'm drawing a blank. Sorry, what did you ask right before that? Sorry about that, Latifa.
Well, I was saying it's my understanding that DTSC is the regulatory body that that takes care of brownfield. So, and I went to a recent conference called Green and Greener, and there were some people there from the Biden administration that said that there were federal funds for brownfield. So again, but you've chosen alternative 2. So since you've chosen to leave some of the contaminants there,
yeah.
Are you planning to issue a bond?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. I'll have to get back to you on the bond that you're speaking of. Maybe you're probably talking about a land use covenant, in which case, yes, we are asking for a land use covenant because there is, like you said, contaminants left in place.
No, not a land use covenant. I'm saying that you're covering the contaminants, and then at a certain point in the future, with sea level rise, if there's going to be a building there, just a building, and if it's not taken down, that'll just be another eyesore. So if you have a bond in place, then there's money to be able to make sure that that's properly taken care of and not left as an eyesore.
I think, are you referring to some type of bond for financial insurance in case something needs to happen later on, that that Centerpoint would put up monies for that?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. We would be asking for financial assurance for that. That's part of DTSC's policy.
So just to clarify for folks, that would be monies that they would have to bond out. So they would have to say, we have this money, and then in case that something else needs to be done, or at the 5-year, at the yearly inspection, say there's a crack that needs to be filled, they need to show that they have the funds to address that moving forward. It's not just a clean up one and done type of thing. Okay, and I'm going to keep moving us on, and if that doesn't feel fair, I'm sorry. I want people to be able to get out and do what they want to do tonight. Also want to hear from you. So I'm going to put my number in the chat box. You can call me if you want to talk after. So I think Dante would be next.
Yeah, thank you. So good evening, everyone. Dante Miguel with Healthy Contra Costa, formerly known as Healthy Richmond. And I'm just in solidarity with our North Richmond resident leadership team today, and also other community members who are concerned with environmental health and community health risks related to this cleanup or development site. And I guess my main question or recommendation is there possibility for delaying the public comment period deadline and extending it beyond that August 3rd or tomorrow, just so that probably maybe even by the end of the month, so that more community members have spaces where they can virtually or or by email and stuff like that, discuss in deeper details the plans for this cleanup. I think not enough people have been notified, informed, or engaged thoroughly about the plans and processes. And I think after hearing some parts of this presentation, more questions and concerns do arise in order to make sure that community actually has say in how this goes. And I think I just want to lift up what others have said. There is a school by the the site, and then there's the local farm. So just want to make sure that community voice is carried out throughout the whole process. And also my second question is like, I don't know if I heard this right or interpreted it right, but it sounds like I don't know if it was stated in the presentation itself, but the magnitude of like the cleaning level is dependent on the intended use of the development site or something along those lines is what I heard. And I was wondering if we can like still have the opportunity to like change or inform that somehow for the community.
So I'm gonna pop in here. So one thing, we have extended the public comment period by a couple of weeks. And I would ask you, if you would like to do that, email Parag and have your colleagues email him as well, and DTSC will consider that. I think it's largely contingent on the number of requests. Right now, we had one request. So that's that. And then secondly, DTSC really focuses on, their focus is solely on the cleanup needs to support the intended land use. They don't get involved in what the land is going to be used as. So that's really outside of their purview. Centerpoint came to them, said, this is what we're approved to do, commercial industrial, and DTSC can't say, well, we have to have you scope higher because of that. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's, you know, that's just the way, unfortunately, our government's set up. Okay, moving forward, Sarah. With a
Yes. Yes, no H. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Gerdian. I'm just coming and hopping on today as a part of the North Richmond Resident Leadership Team. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces and in solidarity. Just, I just wanted to make a quick comment, more refer to the MAC. I know that I believe in May, I think Centerpoint came and presented the development to the MAC, and I would just express my concern, given all the community outcry for the reduction of more warehouses in our community that bring no benefit. I mean, given the approval, the MAC said, you know, approved this to the County Planning Commission, saying, you know, just if we can have local hire, when we know that that never happens in our community. And so I would just like to highlight the fact that we have, you know, these institutions in place to also raise and highlight the community needs. We did a very large work doing the whole quality of the North Richmond Quality of Life Plan with North Richmond leaders. And a lot of that document includes information, and, you know, it's almost like a North Richmond specific plan where we specifically say we don't need more warehouses in North Richmond, and especially not on toxic land. And so just wanted to put that out there. Another point for, I guess my question for DTSC would be, I know the air monitoring devices would be there during the process of this excavation. What is the likelihood of them being there permanently? Because I don't think this is a temporary or just a temporary issue or event that will be happening. Our community will forever be affected by this removal, whether we recognize it or not. The farm, I haven't heard any actual, you know, mention of it being 100%, you know, that there will be no contaminants. We don't have that, you know, I haven't heard any of that. We have the farm next door, excuse the train, but there's no reassurance to the community as to how this will not affect us going forward. And so, yeah, that would be my my ask. And also another recommendation I would have for the MAC was to actually invite Francisco Avila, which is the project manager from the county. I think it's a conservation and development, department in the county to have him sit in at the next MAC meeting along with Centerpoint representatives to further give community members an insight into what's really going on with this project and receive community input that way as well. Thank you.
Okay. So two things I would like to reiterate, because I want to make sure that everybody gets this. I think you do, that this project has been approved. DTSC focuses on the cleanup, but I understood very much what you were saying, Sarah. And I think that DTSC doesn't have the authority to keep those air monitoring stations up on the fence line. They're there just for dust, to make sure that dust doesn't leave the site. So that's a bigger request. You were right to that point of Centerpoint, and I will make sure that that's brought forward to them. Okay.
And then also, she had another point, Sarah, you had another point about the existing level of contamination that's also other than what's being consolidated. You're worried about like the entire land potentially having contaminated soil, and there has been investigations on the entire, and that they did grid sampling, and I wanted to have Chris discuss like that that grid sampling that they did. And so just to reassure you that the other levels that are like around, like, you know, where that was already screened to levels, that DTSC levels. Chris, did you want to talk about the grid sampling?
Yeah, I can briefly do that. Parag, if you want to go to that slide where you have the foot figure of the site map. Yeah, there it is. So those removal areas were developed based off of what Parag's calling grid sampling, and it's exactly what it sounds. It's you lay out a grid and you sample along those that grid, the intersections of the grid lines, and based on those results, you determine what the contaminants of concern are and what the extent of those contaminants of concern are, and that's where these lines come from, and determining what the extent of soil that needs to be removed or whatever needs to be done with it. There's also, if you notice around the edges of the boxes, those are called verification or confirmation samples. So as the contractor is removing the soil, we go in and collect samples to make sure that there doesn't need to be anything else moved or transported off-site or whatever. So we have a good or high level of confidence that whatever they're removing is what needs to be removed, and there's not significant contamination remaining on the site.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I think we have Dulce and then Johanna. And then I just want to note there is a comment in the comment box about Native American considerations. And I believe those were taken into consideration in the CEQA. So I'm going to save that comment for last because I'd like you to address that as well, Parag.
Okay, cool.
So Dulce, thank you for your patience too.
Yeah, for sure. So Chris, you just answered my first question, which is what determines the 1 foot, the 2 foot excavation of the dirt. And then the other piece was the work notice that will be sent. Is there a specific radius? And so I'm more curious about the households, like is all of North Richmond getting this, or is this specific to a surrounding radius? And then the other piece is the devils are in the details. So how will the tires be cleaned? Will there be stations? I think all of that needs to be included. The plastic sheeting also, what kind is it? Is it fire retardant? Will it be like permanent during the whole time? Will it come off and on? So all of those details are really important to include, if not yet already. And then I'm not sure if the on-site manager should be listed, but I think that's an important piece for each of these components. Yeah, those were all of my questions.
Okay. I think most of those that we can probably answer in the response to comments. Got it that the devil is in the details. I completely agree. And I think maybe what we could do is actually summarize the CAMP, which is the Community Action Monitoring Plan, which also includes a lot of that detail. Summarize that and send it to everybody, send it to the North Richmond MAC, and then they can distribute that out and we'll have more information on that in there. Would that be okay? Okay, great. And I'm trying to read the map box too. And yes, I agree. It says, why would DTSC present us with a grid map that we cannot read? Because we're scientists and we don't do the best job all the time, but absolutely noted that that isn't the easiest to understand for folks. Okay, Johanna.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. So I had a couple questions. So how will the DTSC ensure that like the contaminated soil will not spread out and like continue to pollute the air along the route? I know that I believe I read there's gonna be covers, but will those just be like tarps? Will those be something a little bit more sturdy? Like, will the trucks be completely sealed off as they drive off site? I also had another question about how community members will be notified when the air quality from the site is bad and there's a lot of dust coming up into the air. Like, will folks be called? Will there be a notice? Like, what is the protocol if and when the dust and the contamination is becoming a problem during this excavation process? And I'm also wondering why the DTSC is choosing again to only do alternative 2, given that there's other projects, especially in wealthier communities like San Francisco, Marin County, where if this was to happen in those communities that are mostly wealthy in white neighborhoods, they would have much more stringent levels of excavation and they would completely remove some of this contamination. I understand that they're doing it to the extent of what the land will be used and what it's currently for. But I think given the considerations of climate change and sea level rise, especially in North Richmond, where it's projected in the next 50 years or so to be under sea, at sea level or below sea level. And so I'm just wondering, again, how the DTSC can come to these conclusions, especially in an area like North Richmond, where it's been identified by the state, identified by the county, that it is already an area of heavy pollutants. Again, the Bay Area Quality Management Board, again, states that this is an area where there's a lot of asthma rates because of the pollution that we already experience as an overburdened community. And again, I guess my question is also, how will, for example, the farm be notified, Urban Tills, if there is a lot of dust? What's going to happen if some of that dust goes onto the produce that feeds families in Richmond? Will DTSC or Centerpoint be financially liable if they have to throw away some of that produce? Or, how will that happen if this does affect the food that's feeding communities in Richmond? Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as the what DTSC regulates, I mean, we pretty much just regulate to what the intended use is. So I know you acknowledged that, but that's pretty much it. That's what we are requiring the RP cleanup to. As far as the dust goes and how it spreads, I'll actually ask Chris to answer that. And also, Chris, if you could elaborate a little bit more, just like, that covering that's being used on top of the truck, and then also the reporting, how that's going to work as well.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to hop in on the truck covers. The trucks are covered. They're not super tightly covered, right? I think everybody's seen them. We can send you a picture if you like. I believe the soil will also be damp at that same time. So that will also keep it tamped down. And I don't think that the trucks will be filled so much that they're, brimming out like icing on a cake. The truck cover will go down, the soil will be wet, and they'll move right out of the community. So that's kind of the best management practice. And then earlier to Dulce's statement, they clean the undercarriage of the trucks and the tires and have like these rumble strips that the trucks move out on. So pretty much best management practices there, but they're not going to be, these super tight, hermetically sealed trucks. And then I think, Chris, if you can discuss once again the air monitoring plan. I think there's a need to come back and discuss the air monitoring plan in a little more detail with folks once we're closer to that. Chris, can I give it to you? And then the last part, I just wanted to acknowledge, Johanna, about notifying the community. I don't think we plan on not having incidents where dust will be billowing off the site. That's going to be unacceptable, and DTSC is going to be out there checking that doesn't happen. But I always think that it's good to have, plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. And so maybe offline we can chat and you can tell us what would that look like, and we can see if Centerpoint and DTSC can agree to do something more than just internal, if there's something that we should be doing. I know we have to talk to the farm and the school, but if possible, I'd like to explore more that option with you offline. Because I'm gonna, you're gonna know better than us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Go ahead, Chris.
So the question was about the basic protocols of the air monitoring. Is that right? So, yeah. So just
The reporting of the
the reporting. Okay. So as far as the notifications, Tracy, I'm not sure what notifications there are. I know we are submitting regular reports to with the results from the monitoring during the soil removal. As far as notifications, Tracy, do you have any information, or is that something we can include in our response to comments?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? And we're running a little late.
Okay, cool.
I think I mean, just to what happens when something is triggered, what is that process? Just kind of, if you could get something back to us that talks about how we alert the community.
And I understand we're out of time. The one thing I want to say is if anything's triggered, remember we have these very conservative levels or very protective levels. So when something's triggered, we have orders of magnitude on top of that, or layers on top of that, that would actually be a problem. So it's like kind of like a yellow light saying, hey, you need to look at something because this isn't good. It's not like we're alerted and it's already a bad situation. So I probably did a horrible job of explaining that. Johanna, I got your number. I will follow up with you by text and you can tell me what works for you. And I think we are being ushered off the stage, if I'm not mistaken, because you've got other things to talk about. So I'd like to thank everybody for their time. We will be sending this presentation out to you tomorrow, and it has all the information in it. My number's in the chat box. If you feel like you need to tell us something else, please call me. It's my cell phone. I will answer it and take any kind of information people want. And I'm willing to talk tonight or anytime tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you for the very thoughtful questions on behalf of your community. Really impressive.
Yeah, and folks can still send comments. If some come later, they gave you the information. So get in what you need to get in. All right, thank you so much. And we're going to move on to item number 7. And does anyone hear from the City of Richmond Community Service Department? And I guess you can shop. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. I don't see anybody. Shields Reed Neighborhood Council. I know they're probably doing their night out right now, probably. I don't see anybody from there.
I'm sorry, I'm here, but it's real quick. National Night Out.
Okay. All right. Okay. And then Housing Authority, any updates?
Hi, Don. Hi, everybody. Tony Youth-Ferry, Special Assistant with the Housing Authority. Not too much new information. We are getting ready to reach out to the residents that were relocated out of Los Deltas to kind of get a feel whether they're interested in becoming homeowners of the scattered sites. We're going to have an RFP hopefully here in the next month or two. I did want to do more than anything tonight, introduce you to Hannah Phelan. She is our new Coral Fellow and is working with us to kind of work through this process, work with residents, come up with policies, procedures, documentation, talk to the community, have some meetings, kind of get a sense of where everybody's at in terms of, units that are going to be developed, the development process for the campus, all of that. So I'll let Hannah jump in, say hello, tell you a little about herself, and we'll probably have something to kind of fill you all in on in the September meeting of the MAC. So Hannah?
Yeah, thanks, Tony, and hi, everyone. Yeah, Tony gave a good review of who I am and what I'll be doing. I'm just looking forward to learning more and hopefully getting to know some of you along the next 2 years is how long I'll be with the Housing Authority. Thanks.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Hannah.
you. We'll move on to Tanya, Supervisor Joey report.
Hello, everyone. One report is that the North Richmond MAC has an open seat. So if anyone here, or if you know anyone in North Richmond who would want to participate and join the North Richmond MAC as a council member, please email me. I'll include my email in the chat and I can start the process. We have one applicant as of now, so definitely apply. Another update, I don't see anyone from Urban Till, so I'll give an update that they sent. I also, that update is also shared on the North Richmond MAC newsletter, and I also included that in the chat. And that announcement is that the North Richmond Farm is actually going to close to the public for about a year or so because of construction. They finally, not finally, but like in a celebratory way, like finally fundraise enough money to start construction and like the building of some of the elements of the farm, like the farm stand and other, the office and other buildings. So because they are closing and expected to close soon, they're having a free harvest day every Monday from 9 to 1 p.m. this month of August. So you can go to the farm on a Monday from 9 to 1 p.m. and harvest for free. And I think the idea is to kind of get as much produce out to the community before it closes for about a year or so. Another update is that our office will be at Hood Day this Saturday, August 6th from 1 to 6 p.m. And we're gonna be giving out test kits and masks. So we definitely encourage everyone to attend. We're also gonna be at the National Night Out at Kelsey at the Men and Women of Valor Center. So right after this, we're heading over there. So definitely, if you have time and you want to join, I definitely encourage people to join after this meeting. And also wanted to inform community members and leaders that we've been working with CHDC on the local hire part of the developers, and we have compiled a list of developers in North Richmond that have been approved by the North Richmond MAC, and we're starting to kind of strategize around how to follow up with them on their commitments to hire locally, on their commitments to donate locally and train locally. So that's an active initiative that we're having right now, and that we are definitely taking it very seriously, and we definitely want to continue that work, and especially now that we have the resource center, which I'm sure Don may speak more about it, but it's just an exciting time and opportunity to really push that work in a meaningful way, in a real way. And then lastly, just putting myself out there for service. If you want to talk about, any of the issues, I know there was a lot of things raised with Centerpoint. I know Supervisor Joya worked really diligently with Centerpoint, and we worked with Verde Elementary School. We worked with Urban Till Farm. We worked with Sierra Club and other groups. So if you want to know more about kind of those meetings and what was discussed and what was agreed on, you can always call me or email me, and I'll be more than happy to talk with you about it. That's it for me.
All right, thank you, Tanya. So CHDC report, yeah, we are, working really comprehensively to put together a real strategic and a North Richmond resource development plan that will hold employers accountable. And so as Tanya talked about, we're tracking those promises, and we're going to revisit them. We're going to do a count of those jobs that are available and try to link the folks to them. So there'll be some skill training as well as placement. And then there'll be some other soft skills, school education going on there. And as we develop that more, then we will have a report that will come directly at the MAC meeting, talking about what activities being done, who is holding up to their promises, who's not, what we're doing to they're holding them accountable for as well. We also are doing, we've raised about, I think it's 2/3 of the money that we need to build a grocery store. We were able to realize some resources that we got more funds for a certain pool from the state that released funds that could go back to help build a grocery store. So we're 2/3 of the way there. we think we have an idea to get the rest of the way. And then hopefully we can start, identifying a vendor and something that'll be beneficial for the community. We did receive some funds to improve, a commitment of funds from the county to improve some rehab work at Chesley. And we also got some funds to make us more competitive in state funding for Legacy Court, which is the 3-block area. I think it's from Willard to DuBose or somewhere in those areas there. That is 3 blocks of about 40 units of affordable housing that will be there once we get all the funding together. Unfortunately, it takes a long time to put these pieces together, especially if you're not a city and county of San Francisco. They have a lot more money to wheel around, and so does the city of Oakland. But we're working with what we have, and there are some more funds that are going to come up in Contra Costa County that we look to be able to help support and make us more competitive in those rounds. Other than that, we have our regular down payment assistance programs for folks who are looking to buy a home. Even though interest rates have gone up, we do have some mitigating sources that may make it still affordable. So definitely worth taking a look at if you're interested to get into our system. And then also folks who might want to drive what we call clean vehicles, either hybrids or electric or a combination of both. We have some down payment assistance grants from the state to help support that activity. So please, if you're looking at that, make sure you check and see if you qualify for some of those resources that we have available. That's all I have. And unless there's no questions, I'll move on to our mitigation folks.
Hello, everybody. So what I have to report is that I continue to do my weekly patrols and refer the conducting to Richmond Sanitary and City of Richmond. We're partners. I'm working on finalizing our newsletter that will be delivered to residents in North Richmond for September. We will be having our North Richmond Green meeting tomorrow, and we also conducted an Eco Academy event yesterday with Recycle More and Kids for Shields Read summer program. Kids from grades K to 3rd, they were informed on how to properly dispose of trash house bins. And the kids participated in 2 activities, which was bowling and answering recycling trivia questions. And they also played a magnetic fishing game where they were taking out trash from a pool and describing where each item should be thrown. And that's it for the report.
Letitia looks like she has her hand up.
Yes, hi, thank you for taking my, I have a question. For the mitigation fund, I remember that years ago, they were doing this program where they go on the streets and trying to clean some street and tagging or removing some cars that are expired or are in non-working condition. Is there any plans to keep doing that? I think that will help a lot with the neighborhood to, like keep it clean and to get it clean and taking cars out of the streets that are not working. Is there any plans?
I think the sheriff reported on that in his report, and then there are also the highway patrols was active as well in that, and we're still working with them. But I think the sheriff talked about that in his report, that they are trying to cite folks in regard to that.
Yeah, I remember. I'm sorry, like I said, I remember when Tanya was working with them. I think they used to go like streets one time, and then we'll go in another street another time. I'm not sure if Tanya remembers and can share with us. I mean, if that's something, or maybe I had it wrong.
Well, Highway Patrol had a very aggressive one that they used. I don't know if that was during that time that you're talking about. But their comprehensive services are not like they used to be. So I think the sheriff has filled into it, but Tanya can correct me if I'm wrong.
So something that we do is we actually do task force walks every month, and that's with all our partners. We have city and county code enforcement, the sheriff, housing authority, environmental health, and we all walk out down the streets, and like for example, the sheriff said they see a car, they tag them and everything. And we do that every month, the second Thursday of every month.
Okay, so I don't know if that answered your question, Letitia, but hey, we are working there. It is happening. It's just not as aggressive, I think, as it used to be.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And let's move on to Daryl, or do we want to talk anything about the senior before we move on to Richmond Land? I guess not. So we'll move on to Richmond Land.
Righty. We have a couple of events coming up next week. The first event is August 10th on Zoom from 5:30 to 7 p.m., where we will talk about regenerative housing and economies, specifically public banks, and how those are very important for the ecosystem of a community in order to fund healthy and thriving communities. So that'll be next week on August 10th, and I'll put the flyers in the chat. Give me a moment. And then the other event is around, so there they go, English and Spanish. The other event is on housing policy. So we really want to center housing policy on renters. And so building a just future for renters in Richmond and Contra Costa. That gathering will be held in person on Thursday, August 11th at Building Blocks for Kids. And I will also put that information in the chat that you can have. And then lastly, this is a Richmond Land supported event. So there go the other two flyers for that. There is a community member who is hosting a free event on Saturday, this Saturday, August 6th from 1 to 6 p.m. In honor of Coach Bone. It's called We the North. And they'll have free food, a whole bunch of activities. We will be there as well supporting, and hope you all can attend this Saturday. And the events flyer I just put in the chat as well. Those are all my updates.
Thank you, Dulce. Cooperative Richmond. I think I see Princess over there.
Hey, not too much of an update for Cooperation Richmond, other than we just had one of our last online webinars of our Co-op Cafe around the topic of cooperative housing, which allows residents to come together and organize and acquire space and maintain them and manage them and be in ownership of them. And so we looked at that topic, and one of our good partners, Richmond Land also is a community land trust who dwells in that line of work. And so, yeah, we had that, and we're hoping to have an in-person co-op cafe where you can come and visit our office and meet some of our cooperative businesses that we are working with currently. And hopefully we'll have that in August. But that announcement I'll be sending to Tanya so she can email, because it is to be determined. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Princess. All right, folks, we're at the end. Thank you for your participation, and hopefully folks can attend some of the night outs, the August night out. So look forward to our next meeting. So thank you again for your participation. And the MAC has a retreat, folks. We'll be thinking about stuff. All right, take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, thank you.